Hello and welcome to Sailing Sima Chile. Today, hopefully, we'll be looking at some ways that you can dry out your keel boat. As you can see, she's got a little bit of a beard growing. It's been approximately 12 months since she was last scrubbed off, and she was last scrubbed off by using her legs and drying herself out. While out sailing lately, I've noticed that she doesn't seem as crisp in the water as she normally does. Not as slippy, and even under engine she seems to struggle a little bit more, and it's all this little magic carpet that grows on her that slows her down, and there will be a bit of it on the prop as well. This leaves me no alternative. I must take her for a sail to somewhere nice where I can scrub off. Her legs are very neat and compact and just sit on the push bit at the back of the boat. I lash them down so they don't move if I get a good sail and get heeling, but they'll stay there all day. In fact, they'd probably stay there all year. I don't think we can allow that though, because normally when the legs are off the boat, my plank's up there and it's a nice place to sit. Well, as usual, not much wind, not much rushing, and then the wind just disappears. So I motor to the anchorage in Puffin Island, but I won't be drying out there. I'll just be having a nice stop for breakfast. It don't take too long before I arrive at Puffin Island, and on arrival I just drop my anchor. It's a beautiful place to take in the day. Another beautiful morning, and the sun's just got out of bed as well. This is our anchorage, where we're settled for the next couple of hours for breakfast. Staring at the island, lots and lots of bird life up here. You can anchor about 20 to 40 metres away from the island, and it's not too close. It drops off quite quickly into a deep spot. In fact, the further you move away from the island, you get into a bit of a shallow area. I'm having an egg bap for my breakfast, but the butter doesn't seem to be playing ball. I sort of chip little bits of it out and scrape it onto my bun. It'll all go down the same way. Sima Chile, enjoying the anchorage before we move on to the next anchorage, where she won't be floating for long. As I motor out of the anchorage, I note there's a bit of a sandbank here sticking out. There's still a gap to go through, so I'm okay. Another couple of foot of water on top of that though, and you could easily find yourself stuck on it for a couple of hours. It looks like quite a hard life being a seal, laying round on the rocks and soaking up the sunshine all day. Maybe I have to take a little dip later, catch myself some dinner. No sooner than we pass the island than we can get the sails up. There's not really a lot of wind. We're making 2.5 knots over the ground. The wind's very light, probably around 3 knots on an average, but it's given us steerage, and on a beautiful morning like this, ghosting down the Menai Straits is quite peaceful. All as I can hear is the gentlest trickle of water as my bow cuts through it. It's just as well there's a bit of froth on the water, or I probably wouldn't even feel like I was visually moving. The wind is that light this morning. The Jolly Roger seems to still be asleep. As I crawl along with the light airs, I can't help wondering what happened in that ship. How did it overturn? Whose was it? Who were they? Anyway, we're soon at the anchorage, getting ready to drop the anchor. So before I actually get to the place where I want to anchor, I normally free it, get it out of its chock, move it forward a little bit and get it into a place where I can launch it easier from. I want it to be ready to launch because when I'm actually going to drop it, I'm only going to drop it in a couple of feet of water, and I want it to grab more or less where I am. Once I have it exactly where I want it, I place the tooth into the castellated wheel. Then I find my spot, and once I've found it, I'm back I only need to release the tooth and I can lower the anchor straight away. The anchor doesn't go far before I feel it hit bottom. I know the boat's got a little bit of a drift on, so I pay the anchor chain out bit by bit so that I know it's laying rather than bunching up on top of the anchor. I'm going to pay out about 10 metres. I stopped with the depth sounder saying 2 metres of water, but that's about 0.8 down, so I was hopefully have 1.2 metres below my keel at this point. Note, when I stop the anchor chain from running, you will see the chain to ground tackle tighten up rather quickly. There you go, which means that I was paying out about the same pace as my drift. I felt the boat stop straight away, so I think it's dug in quite well. Putting my legs on can be a little bit of a palaver. I think they're quite heavy, even for aluminium. They're probably about 20 kilos, but it's a cumbersome shape with a big square on the end, and I'm quite sure if you swung her into the boat in the wrong place, it would do a little bit of a damage. So I take my time and I prepare my leg for use. This is my scariest bit, passing it over the side. I often think if any time I'm going to fall in, it's holding a weight over the side of the boat. I'm also aware at this moment in time that it's easy to create some damage because you're holding a weight. I put the top of the leg fastening into my midships cleat. After it has passed through the cleat, I stick a bolt in for a safety bolt so it can't drop back out again. Now, because it's tidal where I am, the leg is trying to be pulled backwards a little bit by the current. So I always start by tying the bow line first. So I'll take the bow line up and I'll tie it roughly where I think the leg may be vertical. But I will move backwards and forwards a number of times, checking this with the stern line and the bow line until the leg actually looks vertical. Then once I'm happy with one leg, the game starts all over again with the other leg. I don't think this actually takes too long, but I'm on about 4 times the speed at the moment, so it probably takes 15 minutes or so, I should imagine. My method of attachment is using this bar through the midships cleat. It's secured by a screw on the top so it can't come back out, and together they take the upward force as the leg dries out. As you can see, the cleat has a huge hole in the centre to take the top of the leg. These are the legs in stow on the back of the boat. They consist of 2 different sized aluminium tubes. One slides in and out of the other, held with pins. These pieces are the bits that fit through the cleat. That part goes through the cleat, and this is the bolt that secures it once you popped it through the cleat. The other end has square feet to take the ground. The leg is adjustable by these pins. They're just held in with a split pin and the big pin comes out. The legs can slide in and out of the holes, and then you just put the pin back in where you want it. I've glued some foam pads on top of the wooden pads so that nothing can damage the hull. Once I've got both legs on and in more or less the correct position, I check my depth, and then I check each leg's vertical and I make adjustments accordingly until I'm ultra happy, which is very hard for me to get to that point, but you get to the point where you believe the vertical and you settle. Once you're happy where everything is, you just make sure all your lines are tied, and then you've got the long wait for the boat to start to dry out. These are my lines lashed at the bow, through the fair lead and down to the bottom of the leg. Both sides exactly the same, set up through the fair lead down to the bottom of the leg. This is a picture of the leg with the bar going through the cleat and the bolt that holds it in place. And this is the other side, exactly the same setup. And you can see this, the water is still moving quite quickly, so it's very important that the legs are lashed fore and aft. Well, 5 hours later, and it looks like this, all lovely and clean, prop clean, greased, new anode on, Hull scrubbed all the way down to the anti-foul, which is called copper bot. Anodes checked, and even the boot striped line has been repainted on. So she's a lovely boat ready for the next 12 months. I tell you, it were hard work scrubbing all that weed off the bottom of this boat. That were the warm side where the sun's been all day. This side, however, were the cold side. It were freezing doing this side, scrubbing it off. There, that's not weed, that's just wet patches, wet bits that haven't dried out yet. I've cleaned all the seacock outlets and the log while I'm down here, see if we can get the log back to where it should be. Make sure that the inlets where there's grills on them are all clean, and just basically just check everything and make sure it's still perfect, because you don't see the bottom that often. Freehanding that boot stripe line, and I don't think it were too bad by freehanding. Just look how perfect those legs have landed. What a lovely job they do. Nothing's going anywhere. Well, I'm here, high and dry on the top of the bank, but I really need to move at midnight to here to get in a bit of water. And that's what I did. When I woke up the next morning, I found this. There's like this magicness to this bottle. I can't explain it. It sort of jumps to the left. You can hold it back and you think it's going to fall over. It won't fall over that way, and it shoots the opposite way. And it just keeps doing this. You can push it down and push it down and push it down, and it's fighting you back. And if you were to push it as far as it would go, it'll still want to jump back up. Well, I'll see how far I can push it before it falls over. Now that's 45 degrees gone. That's really got to push it over, and it still won't go over. It's got this magic draw. How can it get this magic draw? And I think it's going to go now. There you go, it's gone. Well, let's start picking it up. Now, it shouldn't jump back up now, should it, after it's been on the floor? No, we'll have to lift it all the way. Oh, no, we won't. It's up again. Wonder why. I wonder why I miscalculated last night. And when I moved the boat, I woke up this morning to find it's dried out. So I'm on my side now because I haven't got my legs on. So there you go. So this is what it looks like when you've dried out by accident. What's happened to this mast? Step up to the dinghy. See the ground, it's just there.
Hugh finds clarity in his archery. Hugh, does he? Aye, he does. And Miranda...
Surprisingly for me, she got to about 30 degrees before she got down to a bilge. I always thought it would be about 50 degrees, but the one thing I didn't account for was the fact that the keel disappears in, say, 6 inches of sand as she's settling. The water gets nowhere near the side decks, which is very reassuring. I think she might even possibly dry upright in mud. Well, just need the tide to come back in now and lift me back off so I can get this thing scooting through the water.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Can't begin to tell you just how good this feeling is. Seema Chili, a Cornish crabber 24 Mark IV, has been a blind and bow for a couple of years that I've sailed her. But I do feel it's time to move on because I do that all the time. If I don't experience new boats, I won't know what a good one or a bad one feels like. And this has definitely been a good boat. Whatever I choose next, it's going to have a lot to live up to. I've got half a dozen different boats in mind, all firing off in different directions. I'm not sure which I'll actually end up going for, and I suppose I'll have to watch the space myself to find out. I do know, however, there seems to be a lot less boats available this year. I think it's due to COVID. I think because people haven't gone abroad or not taken long holidays in different places and find themselves staying in the UK, that they've decided they're going to holiday on a boat in the marina. And that might take a few choices away for me. As my next adventure unfolds, don't worry. If you want to come along, I'm sure I'll take the cameras. And I'm sure you can enjoy it with me. I don't know where or when it will be as yet, but I'm quite sure it will be coming soon. Well, if you've subscribed and you've pressed the bell, you'll get a notification from me or from YouTube on my behalf the next time I post where I'm going to look at a vessel. And you can come along with me and decide whether it's for me or not for me at the time. Well, there's not much left to say now, except, as usual, thanks very much for watching. Thanks to Ikeson for my music. Thanks for subscribing and your support. Thanks for the questions you ask me and the comments you make. And let's hope that we can do it all again on a new boat pretty soon. Oh, and you don't have to actually worry about Seema Chili. She's not going anywhere. She's still staying in her berth in the marina, inches from where the next boat will be. Probably be companions.